Okay, now the recording is on, so we can get started. Ooh, what happened to the Gemara? Here we are. Okay, so we are up to the first line on Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. Levi Ikla LeBavel. Levi came to Bavel, B'Chatzar B'Tishrei, on the 11th day of Tishrei. Omar, he said, Bosim Tafshila de Baveloi, B'Yoyme Rava to my Rava. I smell food because in Bavel, everybody assumes that they're the day after Yom Kippur, and they're cooking and eating and having a nice time, but they don't realize that today is Yom Kippur, because in the Eretz Yisrael, they were mashlim the month of El. They made it 30 days instead of 29 days. And because of that, today is Yom Kippur, the day that you think is the day after Yom Kippur. Amr Lei. So they asked him, Asid, are you saying testimony like a shliach that Bezdin was Mekadosh the Chodesh the next day? Amr Lahu, he said, no. Loi shemate mi Bezdin Nekudesh. I didn't hear it directly from Bezdin. So the question here is, what does this mean I didn't hear it from Bezdin? So Rashi tells us that on Amud Beis, later today, we're going to learn that for Nisan and Tishrei, the Shluchim were not sent out to tell people about Rosh Chodesh unless they were there and they heard the Bezdin proclaim Mekudesh Mekudesh. And since Levi didn't hear them say Mekudesh Mekudesh, Levi couldn't say testimony.
Right.
Problem is, for Tosfos, so what, Levi should let them be Mechal Yom Kippur? How could he possibly allow that to happen? So let's see what Tosfos answers. The Tosfos says over here at the end, I'm looking here, if you look about halfway down to Tosfos, the last word on the line is Amud Beis, Ayin Beis. So right beside it, it says, right below, how could Levi let him continue eating? Today's Yom Kippur. So what do you mean I didn't hear it from the Bezdin? It's Yom Kippur today. The Tosfos. Hatnan, we learned this a massive chiddush. Hatnan the commander Perak Sheni, we're going to learn this week. Asher tikru oisa mekroi kodesh, ela me'ade Hashem asher tikru oisa mekroi kodesh. You have a right to declare when Yom Tov is. Ben bizmanon, ben shaloi bizmanon, whether you have the right day or not. Farmin b'gemara, atam afilu shagin, atam afilu mazidin, v'afilu mutin. Even if you have the wrong date, if the community has the wrong date for Yom Kippur, and they keep the wrong date, that's fine. Because it's a chikosim b'mei Adam, they're allowed to keep the date that they think Yom Kippur is. And therefore, unless Levi was going to say the proper testimony that I heard, Bedin say Mekudesh Mekudesh, they're allowed to continue eating on what they thought was day 11.
This is the whole thing of Levi Shemayim.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is even a bigger chiddush, because in Yerushalayim, they said today's Yom Kippur. In Bavel, they say today's not Yom Kippur. So it's even different from country to country.
That was the same thing that they had in Shanghai during World War II. And some people fasted 2 days, and some people didn't fast 2 days.
Yeah, we're gonna see that soon here as well. We're going to soon see that here as well. Like the Baltic. Let's see the Gemara Vayter. Makar Rabbi Yochanan was Makar is as follows. He made an announcement. The Olam should know. Makar Rabbi Yochanan. All Heichel, the Moti Shluch Nisan, the Moti Shluch Tishrei. They sent out Shluchim at the beginning of Nisan, at the beginning of Tishrei, to tell people when Rosh Chodesh was. But the Shluchim from Nisan end up reaching further communities than the Shluchim from Tishrei. Why? Because they only traveled on weekdays. On Nisan, the only days they can't travel are Shabbos. But on Tishrei, there's Rosh Hashanah, there's Yom Kippur, So because of that, they don't have as many travel days. So naturally, they're not going to reach communities as far as they would reach in Nisan. So those communities that they reached in Tishrei, but they didn't reach in that they reached in Nisan, but they didn't reach in Tishrei, even in Nisan, where they have accurate information, they should still keep 2 days Pesach. Why? Gzera Nisan not to Tishrei. If we let them keep only 1 day for Pesach, because then they had the information from the Shluchim, they might also decide to keep 1 day on Sukkot.
Yeah.
Even though the Shliach didn't reach them yet. And that might be the wrong day. But therefore, if they don't reach you for Tishrei, even for Pesach, you have to keep 2 days. Beautiful. Rabbi Ibu Bar Nagri, Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, and Rashi tells us that these two tzaddikim were Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan, and they should be upholding his achroza, his stuff, that people who are not reached in Tishrei but are reached in Nisan have to keep 2 days Pesach. Ikloi lahu asher, they ended up reaching a city. They showed up to just such a community where they're close enough that by Nisan, before Pesach, the Shluchim get there, but not before Sukkot. And what did this community do? They only kept 1 day of Pesach, where they had the information. And these two Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan did not protest. Didn't tell them, my Rebbe said you need to keep 2 days. Rabbi Yochanan heard that his two Talmidim allowed this to go on without protesting. Amar lahu, he told his Talmidim, Lav Amri lahu, Hechadamot Shlucha Nisan, V'laimot Shlucha Tishrei, La'adu Trei Yomi, Zera Nisan of Tishrei. Did I not tell you this is the halacha? Why didn't you uphold the halacha? Why didn't you make sure that the community you were in knew that they had to keep 2 days? Now we're going to get to the sugya, like Rivero mentioned before, that in Shanghai people kept 2 days. Rava have a ruggle, have a Yosy Butanisa. Yes.
Can you mute the callers?
I've heard some funny noises.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll monitor it as I hear the noise. Their screen turns yellow, and then I can mute them. Okay, thank you. Dr. Haley Gemara. Let's see where we're holding. So Rava, have a ruggle, Davi Yosef B'Tanisa, Trei Yomi. He actually fasted for 2 days on Yom Kippur. Why? Because I guess he was in a community that he didn't have information early enough. Zim Nachada, one time, Ishtakach Kavasei, Rav Nachman. He met Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman was there. Yosef B'Tanisa Kula Yomi de Kippur. And Rav Nachman fasted 1 day, a whole day of Yom Kippur. L'urta, Motzi Yom Kippur, he's about to bite into a fresh, geschmacke, juicy rogala with the chocolate oozing from its cracks, and he's about to make his bracha. He smells it, and he's about to have a geschmacke bite. And what happens? L'urta asahu gaffer, some tzaddik came from Yerushalayim. Amalei, he told him, Ha'idna yoyim rabba b'marabba. Tonight is Yom Kippur. It's Yom Kippur. And you shouldn't be eating. So Rav Nachman here is like starving. He just fasted 24 hours longer, and now he's about to break his fast, and now they don't let him.
What do you say?
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
the Nur Gemara is corrected, because if tomorrow is Yom Kippur, then tonight is also Yom Kippur. So the Nur Gemara is actually changed the girsa. This text that I'm reading from is actually not the latest, but the Oiz V'Hadar has Tziyonim that mentioned that it's Ha'idna. But it's the same thing. To Amalei Mechat, Tzaddik, you just broke the news to me that now is Yom Kippur. Where are you from? Amalei Midimaharya. I'm from Dimaharya. Amalei told him, what a perfect name for what you're doing. Dam Teheyach Risa. You're killing me. Blood's going to be my end. So it fits good with the word Dimaharya, because you're killing me. You're forcing me to fast the second day. How am I going to survive? Kari Alei, he said a pasuk in Eicha that talks about how we're getting attacked. Kalam Hayu Reit Feinu. The pasuk says to the people who were pursuing us, they were light like a nesher, like an eagle. they were all over. So too here, you're making it that I'm not going to be able to eat a second day, and that's going to be very, very difficult for me. Let's just look at Rashi, where it says Dam Tei Achrisai, which is the second wide line in Rashi. Rashi Hareini Meisal Yotcha, I'm going to die because of you. Shetas Kikani Lisanis Beis Yom Beis Leila. You're forced me to fast 2 days. And that's what it means from the Maharia. Dam Tei Achrisa is the nutrikon of the city the Maharia. What are you doing to me? Talk to Gemara. Sholach le Rav Huna bar Avin l'Rav. Rav Huna bar Avin sent to Rav. Kat chazus de moshkot kufas teves at Shitzar b'Nisan. And Rashi tells us that we have the month of Nisan, the lunar month of Nisan, but we also have the tkufa of Nisan, which is the equinox, which is the day that spring starts. Now, that has nothing to do with the cycle of the moon. That's all dependent on the sun. The sun is what controls the seasons. So if the equinox does not occur until the 16th day of Nisan, then over Lahishat, then you have to make an Ibayar and add an extra Adar, because we're going to soon learn from a pasuk that the equinox has to occur in the first half of the month of Nisan. And if it's not going to occur in the first half of the month of Nisan, then you need to add another month. So it'll occur in Adar, in Adar Beis, and then come Nisan, it'll already be in the spring. And don't be concerned that by adding a month, it goes Keneged Halacha, because there's only one Yochid who says you should do that, and that is the Shita of, Rashi says, it's the Shita of Acherim, who's a Shita Yochid, that you're supposed to make sure that the seasons align and that the season of spring must arrive before the first half, during the first half of Nisan. Don't be concerned. The Chsiv, even though Acherim is a Shita Yochid, he has strong support for his Shita. He has a pasuk. It says, Shemar it's Chodesh Aviv. You should watch the Chodesh Aviv. Aviv is the season where things become ripe. Shemar Aviv Shel Tkufa. Make sure the Aviv of the Tkufa, meaning the equinox, the spring equinox, make sure Sheyehei b'Chodesh Nisan, that it should be in the beginning of Chodesh, the Chiddush of Nisan. That means during the first half of the month. So let's think a second. The 16th day is well past the first half of the month. But the 15th day is also past the first half of the month. So why is it only if the equinox falls on the 16th day or later do we make an Ibiyar? Even if it's on the 15th day, we should make an Ibiyar, because then the equinox is past the halfway point of the month. So Rashi tells us very simply, because if they see that the equinox is going to fall out on the 15th day of Nisan, all they need to do is to make Adar 30 days instead of 29 days. So just add 1 day to Adar. It'll then reverse the equinox to be on the 14th day. And it's simple. But if it's the 16th day, you can't add 2 days to a month. And because of that, you're forced to add a whole month. That's what Rashi learns. Tosfos learns even the 15th day is not a problem. And therefore, if it was on the 16th day, you would just add a day. But if it's on the 17th day, then you have to make an Ibri. If you live on the ship, you're a sailor, you live on the ship, which means they didn't have GPS and radio signals. They know they're in the month of Nisan, but you don't know exactly when Pesach starts. You're in the middle of nowhere. How are you going to know when Pesach starts? So let me give you a good way to know when Pesach starts, when it's time to get rid of your chametz. When the moon is lighting up the sky until Netzach Hama, the moon's there in the sky until Netzach Hama, it's a strong moon, that means you're at the 15th day of the month, but Iru Chamira, you should burn your chametz. That's a good sign. Frank Gemara, that doesn't make sense. Amos Mashlim, when do we normally see that full moon all the way up the nets? The Chametz, that's the 15th day of the month. That's a little bit too late. Don't we have to make beer chametz on the 14th day? If you wait until you see that moon last until Netzach Hama, you're going to be a day too late. Dr. Gemara, when we say it takes till the 15th of the month to see that occur, that's on dry land where there's obstructions. But with the two, if you're on the sea where you could see from horizon to horizon without any type of interruptions, with any type of obstruction, the Megalu Almo, you see the whole world. May our base and Mashlim, they'll already see the moon come all the way up to the daylight. And Yaakov said it's not at the 12 o'clock position, it's on the western part of the horizon. So they could see that already on the 14th day, but if you live on dry land and there's obstructions, then you wouldn't be able to see that on the 14th day. That's a way to know when the middle of the month arrives.
This is all if there's no cloud and you can see it, and if there's a cloud,
that's right. If it's very, very cloudy and you couldn't see it, that would be a problem. So there are other details involved that they would have to rely on. Beautiful. So let's get up to the next Mishnah. We're at Chof Aleph and Beis at the top. We're up to the Mishnah. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. There's 2 months of the year where we'll tell the Edom who saw the moon to be Mechal Shabbos and come say testimony that they saw the moon. And what are those? Al Nisan Val Tishrei. In the month of Nisan and the month of Tishrei. Why? Why those? It's those months where we send the shluchim long distance to deliver the message of Rosh Chodesh. A and B uvehen misakim samayadish. Those are the months that determine what day Yom Tov is. When the Beis Hamikdash was still in operation, where every Rosh Chodesh they needed to bring a carbon, Machal and Afal Kulon, every Chodesh you could be Machal Shabbos to come say Eidos, if they take on us a carbon, because we wanted to make sure that you brought the Musafeh Rosh Chodesh on the right day. Beautiful. Rashi has a very big kasha, a pasha kasha. I don't understand. You can't just willy-nilly Machal Shabbos. Is Eidos HaChodesh Doicha Shabbos or not? Zogt Rashi. And I'm on the Rashi on the second line of the Amud. Shabehen Shluchim. Bezdin Shoichun L'Surya, L'Idea L'Goyla, Yom Kvi'usam Hilcha Chashivi. Since Bezdin, those 2 months, sends out Shluchim to make sure everybody knows the right date, that makes them important. Zogt Rashi, you should know that we can't just be Mechal Shabbos. That you're Mechal Shabbos for Kiddush HaChodesh, U'min HaTorah Mechal Al Kulam. Midaraisa, every single month you're allowed to be Mechal Shabbos. The pasuk teaches us that you have to make Kiddush HaChodesh. Aval Rabbanan Asru, L'Vishayin Tikun HaMoedes Tolubehem. But Rabbanan asked all the other months to be Mechal Shabbos for, besides the Yom Tovim months, Tishrei and Nisan. The other months, we don't care if it's Molay or Chaser, if the Edom can't come the day, they'll do the next day. We're not so concerned. But the Yom Tovim, there, the Rabbanan say, let's go with the Dintor that you could be Mechal Shabbos to come to Eidos. Because the Yom Tovim are totally in them. And since the Yom Tovim are totally in them, Chazal said, let them be Mechal Shabbos. If was standing, it was Afal Kul. Beautiful. Tosfos asks a beautiful question. He asks, what do you mean, Midoraisa, you could be Mechalel Shabbos for every Chodesh? Where do we know it from? The Gemara is going to tell us later. You know it from the pasuk of Eila Mayadei Hashem Yikra Kodesh Asher Chukrasim B'Mayadam. Mayadim is referring to Sukkot and referring to Pesach. So those 2 months you have to be Mechal Shabbos. But where do you see from the pasuk Midoraisa that you could be Mechal Shabbos for all the Yom Tovim, like Rashi claims? The Tosfos read some Sukkim that Rosh Chodesh is also called a Mayid. So when it says El Mayadei Hashem Yikra Kodesh Asher Chukrasim B'Mayadam, it's referring to Rosh Chodesh as well. Not the Heilige Gemara. Al Beis Chadashim, there's 2 months of the year that you could be Mechal. Why? Because you said that Shluch. Correct the Gemara. Al Beis Chadashim V'suloi. Is that how we remember the sugyas that we just learned last week? That they only said that Shluchim for 2 months? We learned the first Mishnah in the Parak said, Uraminu Al Vav Chadashim HaShluchim Yotzim. It wasn't only Nisan and Tishrei, it was Av for Tisha B'Av, it was Teves for Shabbat Teves, it was Tammuz for Shabbat Shabbat Tammuz. There were many months that were sent out. So Vasabish, you're saying they only sent out on 2 months. Amar Abaye Hachik Amar Al Kulon Shluchim Yotzim Mi Ba'erev. All the other months are the 6 months that we send out Shluchim. they leave the night before. They leave not on the day of Rosh Chodesh. They leave the night before. But al Nisan v'al Tishrei, yishmu mipi Bezdin l'Chudesh. By Nisan and Tishrei, they cannot leave until they hear from the Bezdin that it's Mekudesh. Now, what does that have to do? What does that have to do with? That's why you could be Mechal Shabbos to say Edus HaChodesh for those months, because you only leave the next day. What does one have to do with the next? So this requires us to learn Rashi, who explains this beautifully. So let's look at Rashi right after the Mishnah. Shluchan yotzim miber. Kigoyin. Nir ba'alil b'yom chavtes. What if it was crystal clear the evening leading to the end of 29 days? So it's clear, there's a clear moon there. So everybody knows without a doubt that tomorrow is going to be Rosh Chodesh. Or in the evening, at nighttime already. It's a clear vision of the moon. So everybody knows without a doubt tomorrow they're going to declare Rosh Chodesh. That's one way. So that's one way that even though they didn't formally announce it, everybody knows. So therefore you would send out shluchim for the other months. Inami, another case where everyone would know for sure Rosh Chodesh is tomorrow, is B'Chodesh Mover, a month where there's 30 days, because there's never more than 30 days in a month. So we're at the end of the line. So for sure, tonight's going to be Rosh Chodesh. The Pshit alone should be Yom Lamed Aleph Yiskadish. Mishal Yiskadish Bizman. So those cases, Shluchin Yoichin Mi Besin, Shluchin can be sent from Besin. The Ein Mamtinin Ad Lamachar Sheyishmu Mekudesh Mipi Besin. They don't have to wait. They can leave even before they hear Besin and make the announcement. Like we said, we're going to learn later. Rosh Besin Ibn Mekudesh, they'll say testimony that the Rosh Besin declared today as Rosh Chodesh. But on Nisan and Tishrei, they can't leave the night before. Then they have to wait to hear the declaration the next morning.
But Bezdin is not allowed to sit at night.
That's right. That's why they have to wait till the next morning, because Bezdin can't make the announcement at night. That's exactly the point. So Zok Rashi, Hilchach, Bishar Chadashim, by other months, Ein Chil Shabbos Shal Edim Mimaheres Yitzis Hashluch. If we want to make the Edim move quickly and let them be Mechal Shabbos, that will have no impact on the Shluchim, because the Shluchim are being dispatched even before the Edim say their testimony the next day. So hastening up the arrival of the Edim by letting them be Mechal Shabbos, comes to Edus, has zero impact on anything, because the Shluchim will go the night before, even before the Edim come. So it's not relevant. However, so Nachamo, Ein Chil Shabbos Shal Edim Mimaheres Yitzis Hashluchim. Chil Shabbos Shal Edim won't make a difference. She'ein Hashluchim Mechalin Shabbos Lotzit Hayom. If today is Shabbos, they're not leaving today anyway. Even if Edim came today and said testimony, whether they came or not, the Shluchim aren't going to leave on Shabbos, because the Shluchim are not Mechal Shabbos. If the Edim don't come today, because they're not Mechal Shabbos, rather they come tomorrow, which is Sunday, then Yis'aber HaChodesh, then the month will end up having 30 days. Everybody's going to know that it was the next day, it was Sunday, that they were Mekadosh the Chodesh because the Edim didn't come on Shabbos. But the Shluchim left immediately Motzei Shabbos. They left Motzei Shabbos before Bezdin declared Sunday as Rosh Chodesh, because they knew tomorrow was going to be Rosh Chodesh. So or it's a Chodesh. The Shluchim will leave Motzei Shabbos to let everybody know that this month had 30 days and Rosh Chodesh is on the 31st day. That's every other month. If the Edim will not come today on Shabbos, which is day 30, and because of that, we're going to say that Rosh Chodesh is the next day, is Sunday, well then, Shluchim, they're not going to go out Motzei Shabbos. Rather, they're not going to go ad mocher until tomorrow, after Bezdin announces that it's Rosh Chodesh. She'ein, like Averel said, She'ein Bezdin mekatzer b'layla. Bezdin cannot convene by night to make Kiddush HaChodesh. Therefore, Nimtu Menatnes Hiluchan Malach Laila B'Yosef. What's going to end up happening in this Tishrei, since they have to wait till Sunday morning to leave, they lost a whole night of traveling. They lost a night of Motzei Shabbos to travel, which means they're not going to reach as far as we really want them to reach. Therefore, let the Eidim come on Shabbos, let them be Mechal Shabbos and make Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. And then Motzei Shabbos, the Shluchim will leave right away to announce the fact that it was Rosh Chodesh.
Why did Adam have to leave? Wasn't there a minute that they put fires on top of the mountains to show
Beautiful
that?
kasha. Beautiful kasha. In the next 2 days, we're going to learn that originally they did not send out shluchim. They did the fire thing. But the problem is the minim, the tzedukim, messed it up and they made fake fires to confuse people. So they had to stop doing fires and they had to send messengers. But the original plan was using fires. But then they hacked the website and they had to send personal messages. Okay. As a matter of fact, I don't know if the oil knows that there was a nuclear reactor that Syria was building. And the Israelis ended up blowing up that reactor. But the way the Israelis found out about it is they were monitoring everything in the world. And they monitored a train wreck in India, and they were monitoring from the ground, I guess from satellite, they were monitoring that this train wreck in India, they had a whole hazmat team come out to take care of the wreckage. And then they monitored that a delegation from Syria flew down to India to deal with the train wreck. They were able to monitor through their intelligence. And they were all wearing like radiation suits. And that created a big red flag to Israel that something's going on. And then they did a lot of research and they ended up in a hotel copying all the files of the computer of a big general, a Syrian general that they met, I think it was in England, and they saw the plans to a whole nuclear reactor. And then they had to figure out where it was because they just had the plans, but didn't know where it was. So they used a lot of intelligence to figure out where it was. They ended up destroying it. And they couldn't understand. How is it that nobody knew about this? And the answer was that this general who's in charge of the project was so careful, there was nothing on the internet. Every message, anything that had to be sent regarding this was hand-delivered in a sealed envelope. And that's what Besdin had to do. After they constantly got in the way and messed up the transmission of messages regarding Rosh Chodesh, they had to do the same thing. It had to be a face-to-face messenger to deliver a message that wouldn't get messed up along the way. Anyway, so let's see what the Rashi says weiter. So what happened here is if today is Shabbos and it's day 30, if Edom will not be Mechal Shabbos to come make today Rosh Chodesh, the Yisaber Chodesh, and they're going to make Rosh Chodesh Sunday, well then the Shluchim aren't going to leave Motzei Shabbos. They're going to have to leave Sunday after the announcement of Rosh Chodesh. Shein Bezdin Mekachim B'Layla, because Bezdin don't make Kiddush HaChodesh B'Layla. Nimtu Mematnas Teiluchan Mahalach Lala B'Yoycha, we're losing 1 night of travel. Ketat. So Rashi gives an example. Edom V'Yidu B'Kachu B'Shabbos. Let's say the Edom come on Shabbos and say today is Rosh Chodesh. V'Hei Pesach B'Shabbos. That would make Pesach exactly 2 weeks later on Shabbos. So Yeshman L'Shluchim Mahalach Yud Beis Yom Shleimim. The Shluchim, if they leave Motzei Shabbos, have 12 full days to travel to get to the furthest possible destination. They're going to be dispatched to Motzei Shabbos. Every weekday, they're going to travel, which is going to be 12 full days. However, if Edom don't come today Shabbos, rather they come tomorrow, then Lo Yetza Shluchim Ad Moch. Rosh Chodesh is Sunday, and they're not going to leave until Sunday. V'al Korcham Shabbos Ol Erev Pesach. Let's think about it. If Rosh Chodesh is Sunday, then Erev Pesach is going to be in a Shabbos because Sunday will be Pesach. So that means V'al Korcham Shabbos Ol Erev Pesach Yishvaisu. They're going to have to stop traveling Erev Pesach because it's Shabbos. So Nimza Shalei Yud Beis Yom Shleimim. They didn't get 12 days; they only got 11 days. So because of that, they won't reach far enough. So in order to make sure that they can reach as far as possible, we say that the Edom should be Mechal Shabbos to come say testimony on Shabbos. Break Rashi a bomb kasha. Break Rashi a bomb kasha. Break Rashi. Heichu toila ham chilu ha'edim b'yitzis hashluchim. We're saying the reason why the Edom should be Mechal Shabbos to come say Eidus HaChodesh is because we need it for the Shluchim. Harei HaShluchim atzmon lo nitin lehem l'chal. The Shluchim are not allowed to be Mechal Shabbos. So if the Shluchim aren't allowed to be Mechal Shabbos, why would we, on behalf of the Shluchim, tell the Eidei HaChodesh to be Mechal Shabbos? They shouldn't lead the Chil Shabbos at all. So Rashi, you're right. The real reason why we tell the Eidim for Nisan and Tishrei to be Mechal Shabbos is not because of the Shluchim. Tam Achilo is Kadesh is Kadesh HaChodesh Bisman. The reason why there's Chilul is so that the Chodesh should be Niskadesh at the right time. Exactly at the right time. That is the reason. Therefore, Kedekatani, Ubehen Mesaknas HaMoyades. And that's the second comment in our Mishnah that says is to make sure Yom Tov is the right time. We do want Yom Tov to be on the right day. We would rather do it at the right date and not push it off. So why is it saying that it has to do with the Shluchim? So Rashi, the Yitzhak Shluchim Dekatani, Enel Liyapos Uliyashev is Tam Achilo after Shvilzos. All we're doing is we're saying, yeah, there's also another advantage is that it helps the Shluchim. But Avada, that's not the main reason. Zok to Gemara Vayta. Ani Nami Hochi. So we're about 4 lines into the Gemara. Tani Nami Hochi, here's another verse. Al Kulon Yoichin Mi Be'erev. All of the months when the Shluchim are dispatched, they leave the night before the announcement. But Al Nisan Val Tishrei, Achi Yishmu Mipi Bezdin, Mekudesh. They have to hear Bezdin announce that it's Mekudesh. Now let's stop for a second. Why is it that by Nisan and Tishrei, they have to wait till they hear the Bezdin announce it? What's the reason for that? So Tosfos asks that question, and Tosfos answers it very, very well. So let's look at Tosfos towards the bottom of Tosfos. Tosfos says over here, the Im Toimar. So I'm at the second wide line of Tosfos at the bottom of them. The Im Toimar for Tosfos. Uma tam demas Nisan leNisan v'Tishrei achi yishmu mipi bezdin mekudesh. Why is that necessary? I understand in a case where everybody knows which Chodesh will be day 30 because the moon was crystal clear on the night of the 29th. I understand why you wouldn't want to send out the Shluchim right away. You know why? Because even though you're for sure going to be Mekadesh, the Chodesh tomorrow, we don't want to be presumptuous and send out the Shluchim the night before. You know why? Because we're choshed that maybe something will come up that Bezdin will find some reason to add a day to the month. And what's going to happen is if you send the Shluchim out before, they might not know this. Then the Taka going to mess people up. Because they're going to tell people that Rosh Chodesh was on day 30, when really Bezdin the next day decided to push it off a day. So that makes sense why we wouldn't send the Shluchim. But in the day where Rosh Chodesh was not day 30, rather it was a Chodesh Mover, it was day 31, there Livku b'yom lamed. Why don't you let him go before Bezdin announces it? For sure they're not going to be pushing it off more, right? Rosh Chodesh cannot be past day 31, so why don't we let the Shluchim go out earlier? So Tosfos v'Shloimer the gozru high otu high. We say even on day 31 we don't want to send out Shluchim before Bezdin announces it, because if they do that, then they might also by mistake send out Shluchim on day 30 before Bezdin announces it, and that could come to a problem if Bezdin changes their mind. So that explains why by Nisan and by Tishrei we don't send out Shluchim until they hear from Bezdin the Kodesh. How do you know that you're Mechal Shabbos for Edis of Kiddush HaChodesh? You have to announce it on time. So therefore, the Edim must come on time and make the Edus. Again, the gear says it's changed to Al. You might think the same way. We tell Edim to be Mechal Shabbos so that they can be Mekadosh the Chodesh. Kach mechalim al sheyiskaimu will also be mechal Shabbos to allow the shluchim to go out and make the knowledge of the chodesh accepted by everybody. So they go tell people maybe they can be mechal Shabbos for that as well. Talmud loy masher tikru oisa. Only to declare a chodesh do you mechal Shabbos. Al kri also mata mechal. Yata mechal al kiyuma. But to make people accept it, in other words, to deliver the message far and wide, there's no mitzvah to be machal Shabbos, and you're not supposed to. Only for the actual edus of Kiddush HaChodesh.
Yes, just a quick question. So, but on Tishrei, would they go out on Rosh Hashanah, or they would wait until after Rosh Hashanah to go?
They would wait until after Rosh Hashanah. That's why we said there's a very big difference between the distance that they can travel in Nisan versus Tishrei, because they lose 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, or 1 day, depending on, and the day of Yom Kippur. So they, therefore, in Nisan, they end up reaching a lot further.
But it says that for Tishrei and Nisan, they would wait so they could clarify and hear it from Beis Din that they were, that the month had been declared. Why doesn't it say they can't go on Tishrei? They don't have the option.
Tishrei, they're waiting even past that, you mean. They're waiting even until Rosh Hashanah. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's right.
Didn't they also have on Rosh Hashanah 2 days anyway? So they were Mekayim Tkiyah Shofar and Mekayim all the mitzvahs of Rosh Hashanah a day early anyway.
Well, it was a shaila if they kept both days or not. It depends on when the Eidim came, if they came earlier or later.
No, but on Rosh Hashanah they didn't have to be Mekadosh Chodesh because of Yom HaRichter.
They still have to declare that today is Rosh Hashanah. So they did rely on the moon.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like they didn't have to be Mekadosh on the 31st day because they knew that 31st day was that there wasn't any 31 days.
Oh, even when Rosh Hashanah is on the 31st day, Beis Din still has to declare to Kodesh. They still have to say Mekudesh. Beis Din has to declare the Kodesh all the time, even if it's inevitable, like day 31. Originally, when the Beis Hamikdash was standing, every month they were Mechal Shabbos. When the Beis Hamikdash was Chorov, Amal and Rebechem and Zakai told the Olam, the Chayesh carbon, is there a carbon? Never, we don't have a Beis Hamikdash anymore. We don't bring carbon in Rosh Chodesh. So why would we need to be Mechal Shabbos for Kiddush HaChodesh now for all the other months? So therefore, Eskinu Shaloyu Mechalin Al Nisan Val Tishrei Bilvad. They made it Akana to the only months that they're Mechal Shabbos for is Nisan and Tishrei because we need to make sure that the Yom Tiv will be on the right day. Talk to the more about it. Even if the moon was crystal clear, and therefore maybe people shouldn't be Mechal Shabbos to travel to Yerushalayim, because chances are people in Yerushalayim saw it. Everybody must have seen it. It was crystal clear. Or if it wasn't seen so clearly, so maybe the Edom are more required, because maybe others didn't see it. Mechalin Olav as a Shabbos. The Edom are regardless Mechal Shabbos to go say Edus HaChodesh. If the vision of the moon is crystal clear, it's a clear night, and everybody can see it, then Ein Mechalin Olav as a Shabbos. Then you're not be Mechal Shabbos for it. Why? Because there'll be plenty of Edom. There was a story where more than 40 pairs of Edom were coming to say Edus HaChodesh. The Ikvim Rabbi Akiva Balut, and Rabbi Akiva stopped them in Lut, saying, you shouldn't be traveling out of the Tchum anymore. There's too many of you. There's enough. We have enough to get our Chodesh announced. Rabbi Gamliel was very unhappy when he heard this. Rabbi Gamliel, if you're going to stop multitudes from coming to say Edus, what are you going to do in a month where people aren't coming? People are going to say, last time I went, they didn't let me go. I'm not going to bother this time. You're going to be machshil lasad labai because in a month where we do need Edom, people aren't going to want to go. It's like voting. You have to vote because if you don't vote, if you don't count your vote, then you're not going to want to vote next time. So the same thing with Edom. If Beis Din doesn't show that we're machshir every single set of Edom, then people are going to not come, and there might be a month where there's not enough Edom. Gemara. My mashma the high alil lishna the mikli. We touch the Mishnah. Near Baalil means that it was very clear to see the moon. Where does the word alil come from? That alil means the moon. Amar Bavo, Amar Kra, Imrois Hashem, Amoris Taharis. The words of Hashem are pure. Kesef Tsar, they're like purified silver. But Alalor, it's clear to anybody in the world, Mizukak Shivasayim, purified 7 times. So you see that Ba'alo means clear. Rav and Shmuel darshan this pasuk. Now, most of the Rishonim changed the Gersa, and it's the Amri Tervayu, not Chadam. Rav and Shmuel both agree that Nun Share Bina Nivru Bo'ilam. Hashem created 50 gates of understanding in the world. V'chulam nitnu l'Moshe. All of these Chamishim Share Bina were given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Chasar Echad, besides one. Shenemar, like it says in the pasuk regarding Moshe Rabbeinu, V'techasreyu ma'at melekim. Moshe was just missing one little bit. That's what everybody agrees, both Rav and Shmuel. Zog to Gemara, Bigish Kohelas, which is Shlomo Melech, limta divrei chayfetz. The pasuk says Kohelas, Shlomo Melech was trying to find divrei chayfetz. We don't know what he was trying to do. We don't know what this divrei chayfetz are referring to, but the Gemara is going to explain. Bigish Kohelas lias k'Moshe. Kohelas wanted to be like Moshe, meaning he also wanted to have all of these Shari Bina. Yosy Habaskal came out and told him, the Chasiv Yoshe Divrei Emes, which is the end of the pasuk of Bikish Kehelis Limta Divrei Chayfetz. The pasuk concludes the Chasiv Yoshe Divrei Emes. It says in the Torah Divrei Emes. What does it say in the Torah Divrei Emes? Well, like Kam Novi Oid Be Yisrael Kamoshe. Shlomo was told only Moshe Rabbeinu Zoichet to all this chacham. You're not. So the Mesivta Gemara in the Shar Bi'urim says a fascinating thing. What this is referring to, the chachma that Shlomo Melech was looking to get, was understanding the reason for the paraduma. And Shlomo felt that the secrets of the paraduma should be unlocked to him. Why? Because let me just pull out the Chumash. The Chumash says in Parshas Chukas, where it talks about the paraduma, a beautiful, beautiful pasuk. Let's see if we can find it over here in Chukas. It says, that's here in the pasuk. It's fascinating stickle. That's here in the pasuk. It says over here. Wait, I have to find this. It's such a beautiful, beautiful word. I don't have it. Let me just see what it says over here. It says V'lochu latame. This is right before Sheni in Chukas. It says V'lochu latame. You should take for the tame me'afar shreifas achatos, from the ashes of the chatos that's being burnt. V'nosan alav mayim chaim al keli. So let's focus on these words. Latame me'afar shreifas achatos. What's the first word? What's the first letter of the word latame? Lamed. What's the first letter of the word me'afar? Mem. So you have lamed mem. The first letter of the word shreifas is shin. Lamed mem shin. And hachatos, the first word of hachatos is hey. The words lamed mem shin hey spell shloima. Lamed mem shin hey spell shloima. So Shlomo said it's mamish in the remote, in the pasuk. My name is there. So I should get the Havana. I should be zoicha to the Havana to understand the secret of the paradigm. On that, the Torah tells him, no, you're making a mistake. Don't read it like you're reading it. Read it like Rav Beryl just said. La Moshe. This story is not for Shlomo. It's La Moshe. It's for Moshe Rabbeinu exclusively. For Lakam Navi Oid B'Yisrael Kamoshe. Right? Rav Beryl, that's what you said right away as I'm reading it. That's for La Moshe. So Shlomo thought it said Shlomo, and they told him, no, it says La Moshe.
And I'm saying, I have another thing. Who wrote Tillim? David HaMelech.
Right.
Who wrote wie heißt das, with the Kahalas? Shlomo.
Right.
So Shlomo wrote it, and he meant Moshe.
Very good. Okay, so let's see what the Gemara says over here. The Chad so this is, remember, there's Rav and Shmuel. So one of them said that Shlomo Melech wanted to be like Moshe, but the Torah said no. The Chad that he was able to have the same Chacham as Moshe, because it says v'lekam Novi oid b'Yisrael Moshe. So there will not be a Novi like Moshe. The Chad b'Neviim lekam, but the Malachim come. There were kings that could have been as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, and that would have been Shlomo Melech. What does the pasuk mean that Shlomo Melech wanted something and he didn't get it? What does it mean? So the Gemara, he wanted to be able to use his chachma to understand the intention of people, to be able to paskin on them, nisa, even without edim and without asra, because with his chachma he would be able to figure out if the person is guilty or not. And on that, Yotze Baskel Baramaloi, the Chaz of Yosher Devremis, the Torah says not like that. The Torah says, Al Pishnayim Edim, everything has to be done with Edim. You might be a smart guy, but you cannot condemn anybody without Edim.
Doesn't it say, I'll die in my shleisha?
That's right, but never mind, but for sure not through your own chachma. It has to be through the halachas of the Torah, which is through the prophet.
Why don't they quote it like it says in the Torah? It says in the Torah, I'll be shnayim my shleisha edim.
It does. It says v'chulu. It just didn't quote the whole pasuk.
Oh.
Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. We'll just turn over to Amud because we just have a couple of lines left to the Mishnah. There was once a time where more than 40 pairs of Eidim were going to say Eidim on the Chodesh. The Ikman Rabbi Kiva. So Tanya, we have a brayso that argues and says that Rabbi Kiva never held it back. It's somebody else. I'm Rabbi Yehuda. Chas v'sholom Rabbi Kiva Ikman. Chas v'sholom to suggest that Rabbi Kiva held these people back. El Shizpar. There's this fellow by the name of Shizpar who was Rosh Geder. He was the mayor of the city of Geder. Ikman, he held these people back. He didn't let these people go on. Rabbi Gamliel sent a letter to the city council, and they said you have to remove him from his post. Someone who could stop Eidim from coming for Kiddush HaChodesh, he doesn't deserve to be the mayor anymore. There are those who say that why wasn't blamed on Rabbi Kiva? Because Rabbi Kiva was also there, and he wasn't moicha like Rabbi Gamliel was. So I guess we could stop here. Have a wonderful evening, and the Mitzvah tomorrow will be Mamshech on Daf.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach, everybody. Thank you so much.